Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dirt Rider YouTube channel. My name's Evan, and today I'm out here in Ocotillo Wells testing out the 2022 Honda CRF300L. This is a bike that's been in their lineup a couple years now. Previously the 250L, which many people are familiar with, but we haven't been on the 2022 model, so we're out here gonna swing a leg over it and see how it goes. But before we throw the helmet on and get moving, we're gonna jump through a couple specs. So to start off, we have the power plant. This is going to be a 286cc single cylinder liquid cooled engine with dual overhead cams and 4 valves. It's fed by a 38mm throttle body. The suspension, we've got a 43mm inverted fork offering 10.2 inches of suspension travel. In the rear, we have the Pro Link single shock and spring, also offering 10.2 inches of suspension travel. Neither of the two are adjustable. In the rear, we have a 220mm disc with a single piston caliper and an 18-inch rear wheel. Up front, it's going to be a 256mm disc with a dual piston caliper and a 21-inch front wheel. So pretty standard dual sport and off-road wheel sizes, give you a lot of tire choices. The ground clearance is right around just over 11 inches. The wheelbase is right around 57 inches. The seat height is just under 35 inches. It weighs 309 pounds on the Dirt Rider automotive scales. It comes in one color, this red right here with the HRC inspired graphics. It's got a 2.1 gallon gas tank and a fully digital dash, which looks pretty trick. So you got their gear indicator, fuel gauge, the clock, you know, your RPM range, and yeah, it's a pretty sweet bike. So I'll turn it on and give it a couple revs. All right, now we're into some of this, rockier, slower technical stuff, and this is where I feel the 300, really likes, where it really feels good for me. The softer suspension, absorbing these rocks really well. It doesn't blow through the stroke like it does in the faster stuff as much. And it just really is playful in these kind of slower, technical, rocky sections. And the clutch pull on this bike is super lightweight, which is great for this kind of riding because your finger doesn't get fatigued. It's got a smooth engine. It's just easy to ride. Comes on nice. There's no dead spots in the power. And this thing's, likes to be revved out. You can rev this thing pretty good, and it continues to make power. And, it's just a fun bike for a wide variety of terrain. I will say, when riding this kind of stuff, you do have to consider this bike doesn't come with a skid plate, so that's something to keep in mind when you're riding this technical, rocky stuff. All right, here we go. A little technical, rocky uphill. Second gear. All right, not too bad. So obviously kind of loses some drive as you're going up the hill with the, the dual sport tire. Doesn't have a huge knobby to move all that stuff out of the way, but with the soft suspension, absorbs that stuff really well. And then, the lower seat height for a guy like me who's only 5'7", makes it confidence inspiring that you can, dab your foot or catch yourself if you get caught up. So it's pretty sweet. Very playful bike, really good, for that kind of off-road, slower, more methodical off-road riding. And this little tight stuff, you know, this bike feels very narrow, nimble, agile, so, you know, it definitely is confidence inspiring in that sense. It's got pretty good brakes, you know, they're not super grabby initially, but once, you know, get into the stroke of it, you definitely get stopped. Just kind of dragging the rear brake through here. It's pretty sandy, so the front end is washing a little bit. But again, it's a light and nimble bike, so this stuff very, very, you know, confidence inspiring, you know, taking these little more extreme lines. I think especially too, if you get some proper off-road tires on this thing, if you plan on coming out and really doing some riding like this, a good set of knobbies will make this bike even that much more enjoyable to ride in the more technical stuff. All right, we're gonna see if this CRF300L will make it up this sandy uphill with a, you know, a nice little ledge at the top. So we're just gonna pin it to win it. Let's see. Nice. Pretty impressive. That was a third gear up all the way up through there. Started in second, shifted to third, and just kept her wide all the way through. So, you know, you go into the ledge face there, and the softness of the suspension just absorbs that stuff really well. It didn't deflect or anything. So, you know, that was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be on this bike. Another nod to the CRF300L. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this onboard review of the 2022 Honda CRF300L. So again, you know, my first initial thoughts on this bike is, you know, it's very well refined, smooth engine characteristics that offer good usable power, you know, all the way through the RPM range. And the tight, really tight, you know, almost dead stop technical stuff, I could still use second gear, and with a little bit of clutch work, you know, could do just about anything on this bike. So I got fourth there, but I was struggling to turn the wheelie a little bit. And then I had to drop her. I got a little bit too far back, had to drive a little too much handful of throttle right there. Which again, it makes it, this bike isn't hard to wheelie, but for getting, like, kind of stretching out your wheelie, it requires a little bit of skill to not run out of gear. And then if you do, get those shifts going and having good throttle response, not too much, but then sometimes you do have to give it a decent little whack of the throttle to keep it from dropping. Pretty decent little nose stoppy. It's got this pretty street biased dual sport tire on it, so that obviously helps. And I don't know if you can see in the video there, I'm using 2 fingers. Where on some other bikes I'm able to get away with just using 1 finger. This one requires just a little bit more power to get the same stopping performance. But it's obviously not a bad front brake if you're able to do something like that. Split some traffic. This bike's real thin and nimble, so it's easy to get through some of these tighter sections. Alright, let's do a launch right here. First gear from here to the next signal.
just about 70 right there. All right, everyone. That's going to wrap up this onboard review of the 2022 Honda CRF300L. This is a really good, approachable dual sport that offers, you know, Honda reliability as well as refinement. You know, this bike, for its, you know, just over a $5,000 price tag, it's amazing how just well built this machine is, and the performance both from the engine, the suspension, the brakes. You know, it's definitely a very good motorcycle, I should say. Yeah, there's not really anything I can complain about this bike. Obviously, there's a few things that maybe I would like to see a little bit better, but there's no real big flaws. I would like maybe a little bit stronger front brake. I would like maybe a little stiffer suspension settings for some of the faster off-road sections. Maybe just adjustable suspension would really help there, you know, if you had some clickers to play with. But other than that, I think this is just a really good, you know, sort of entry-level, lightweight dual sport. Being a sub 300cc bike, you know, this is it's kind of a no-brainer if you're looking in that market. So, of course, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. I'd appreciate that. If you want to continue to see content like this, hit the subscribe button, and of course, let me know what you think in the comments below, and what other bikes you'd like to see tested on this channel in this sort of way. So, and of course, look for the full review, the written review. There'll be a link in the description where I'll go a lot more in depth on some of these things we touched on in this video. So, of course, thanks for tuning in, and see you out on the trail.